welcome to the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative live series where we're getting together with different board and committee members to get to know them on a more personal level and learn about the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative. Today, we have an amazing contribution to the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative. This is Dr. Michael J. Brenner, and he serves as the president of the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative. As a president, he provides leadership for the GTC learning community, which spans over 200 institutions across 25 countries. He holds editorial reviews on several academic journals, including the editor of the Tracheostomy Official Journal of the GTC. Michael Brenner's research program has received NIH funding, foundation grants, and produced over 250 publications. He is passionate about patient engagement and cultivating young leaders. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce him and give him the floor so he can speak a little bit about himself, and then we'll dive into some questions and get to know Michael as an individual leading the GTC initiative.
Well, thank you so much for the kind introduction, Rachel. The best thing about this opportunity, serving in a role in leadership in the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative, is the incredible people that I meet. People like you that are allowing our voice to be amplified and to reach other people in other places. So as far as my background, I'm an otolaryngologist, head and neck surgeon. I serve as a faculty member at the University of Michigan, and I'm very committed to education. Probably among all the things that you said, the thing that I care most deeply about is the opportunity to grow young leaders and find the gem and the special qualities of different people that can allow us to do our work better within the collaborative. I serve as a co-director of branch science at the University of Michigan, and I've long been involved in meeting the reconstructive needs of patients, which is how I found my way into this particular space.
Well, that was a great introduction. So, like going off of what you just mentioned about being the president of the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative, what do your roles entail? So you mentioned, fostering leadership and providing this space for individuals to be engaged in tracheostomy development and education. But what is like a day in the life of a president? What's your role for this organization?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Well, I'd start by saying that it's a huge privilege to have the opportunity to serve in this wonderful organization. And the most important thing that I do is probably learning from all the people around me and allowing them to shine and make their efforts make a difference in the lives of individuals with a tracheostomy. The role overall involves leading our organization's efforts to improve safety and quality of care and also quality of life in patients with a tracheostomy around the globe. I work with an international team of professionals that include speech-language pathologists like yourself, nurses, respiratory therapists, other physicians in all disciplines, and most importantly, patients and their families. In terms of the day-to-day responsibilities, so some of these are high-level aspects like strategic planning, overseeing our different initiatives, ensuring that our goals align with the needs of our communities. But there are also other sort of boots on the ground type activities. So for example, I was recently in Manchester working with one of our leaders and collaborators, Dr. Brennan McGrath and his team. And I got to see what actually happens on the ground at their institution, understand the challenges that they're facing and understand how we can improve the care of patients in different settings. There are activities that involve conference organization, public forums, and building partnerships with our hospitals, the different health professionals, and just fostering a culture of innovation and continuous improvement so that we're always making progress towards safer, better care.
That's awesome. I mean, that, like you said, it can be all the way up to the top in leaders and all the way down to doing, the groundwork, which is really paving the way for other medical professionals in the field. Has the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative always been this interdisciplinary? Because I will say from my own experience, joining a collaborative like this and being able to go to conferences and hear from otolaryngologists, respiratory therapists, speech language pathologists, it is amazing to come together with these many different disciplines. Has it always been this immersive, or would you say that in the last few years, it's really involved more disciplines?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And so that actually prompts me to recall my own personal journey. So I would say that from its inception, the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative has really prized the opportunity to work with people across all different disciplines. But learning how to get those different members, getting the right people on the bus is part of it, and making sure that all those different specialties are represented is one part, but getting everybody to work together cohesively is a goal that evolves over time and continues to be a work in progress. In particular, in terms of ensuring that the voice of the patients and families is heard loud and clear and that we're doing the most and best that we can, has been an ongoing area that we focus. So, for example, for a long time, we said that we involved patient and families. And the leadership within that group said, no, we don't want to just be involved. We want to be engaged. We want to have a voice.
Awesome.
When I first became involved with the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative, I was really interested in preventing harm, figuring out how we avoided adverse events. And I had seen some of those in the early years of my training. And I had a pretty siloed perspective that really focused on, okay, what are the indications of the reasons why we do the procedure, ensuring that the patient met those criteria, that they understood risks and benefits, and then executing a technical procedure that delivered, a safe outcome. What I didn't realize is that that's not really where the problems are. The problems are around the fragmentation of the care afterwards. And so getting all the different members to work together and see what each person brings to the table has been incredibly valuable. And I'll give you an example that actually speaks to this. During the pandemic, there were a flurry of different guidelines that came out. So every single hospital in the world had to figure out how, if, and when to do tracheostomy in their critically ill patients. But people were worried about aerosol generating procedures, so the possibility of infection. And some of these guidelines were just one set of professionals from one institution. If they were a little better, then they brought together a couple specialties. But we had the best stakeholder engagement because we had nurses, speech language pathologists, respiratory physicians. We also had patients and families and historians and ethicists. And so by having all these different people from a dozen different countries, we were able to, I think, really get it right. And that became very impactful and helped establish our leadership in a time when people were in crisis and didn't know the right way to go.
But that's amazing because I mean, just it resonates so much that you're saying that it's not really the procedure itself that is what we're, involved in. It's the carry through after, like the fragmentation of the care. And I think that this collaborative does such an amazing job of bringing us all together. It's one thing to say we need to be interdisciplinary, and it's another thing to come to a website, go to a conference, and work collectively with these stakeholders to implement some change. So wonderful, wonderful. So this brings me to my next question, and I love this question. What excites you the most about tracheostomy management or where it's going? So maybe it's something that you do in your practice or something that is getting created with the GTC collaborative, but what excites you about waking up every morning and going to work with tracheostomies?
Yeah, so I'd like to answer that question, but before I do that, I want to dovetail on something that you said, Rachel, which was talking about the different roles that individuals have in tracheostomy care. And so we should all think that whatever we do is incredibly important, and maybe that it's the most important. But one thing that really struck me is that when I spoke to patients, and when we heard the voices collectively of patients in some of our surveys, they were not so interested in how we did their procedure. They were interested in what you deliver as a speech language pathologist, the quality of life aspects, that ability to connect, the ability to speak and communicate, the ability to swallow, the things that give us humanity and allow us to enjoy life are really what they prized. And I realized that I was actually not aspiring to enough, that it was a really low bar just to not let people get hurt. So that opportunity to do better and go beyond not doing harm to actively doing good is one of the things that really excites me. And so it's the impact that we have on improving patient outcomes and quality of lives. So tracheostomies can be life-saving interventions, but they come with a lot of challenges for patients and for the professionals that take care of them. And so I've been so passionate about the interdisciplinary approach that we take, where we bring all these people together. And so these offer opportunities for innovation. In addition to the medical specialties that I've discussed, we've also benefited tremendously from collaborators in public health, in areas of design and engineering, ways to improve surgical techniques. And I've just learned so much from our direct interaction with our patients, our family. So one example is in the academic health center, we're kind of taught to be somewhat watchful about our relationship with our industry partners. And so we kept this arm's length type relationship, which we still do have in terms of only accepting unrestricted educational grants. But one thing that came from our patients and families was that some of their biggest problems related to durable goods, malfunction of equipment. And if we didn't have a means for connection and communication with those partners, then we couldn't fix some of the problems that mattered most to them. And that's just one example. There's so many cases where it totally turned around my own thinking about where the problems are and where we need to address our attention.
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting them on the head, all of the problems, and that just like resonated with a issue that we've been ongoing in my facility, and we sometimes just want to, and I know I could speak for a lot of speech language pathologists, we want to fix the core issues in our own facility about management and progression of care, but really if you just sit down with the patient and ask them, what do you need or what are your barriers? A lot of it is not what's happening in the hospital. It's when they go home, right? The supplies, like you said, or the ability to go home and know that they're eating safely or that they will be able to communicate with a loved one. So I think that, anyone watching this today and who wants to get more involved and be as passionate as you are, and definitely as I am, can really benefit from these interactions, these resources that are on the website. So that kind of brings me to our next question, a little off script, but the
Well,
website
actually,
provides, yeah,
before you get to that, forgive me, but I have to give a concrete example that I'm sure you're very well acquainted with, which is the challenges that we had when there were supply chain shortages around silicone.
yes,
So we saw that that had profound effects on patients and their families' ability to get the equipment that they needed. And so when that issue came up, I was asked to speak to it for an article that they are running within the sort of newspaper bulletin that they have within our specialty. And I did speak to it and had some insights, but I said, who you really have to talk to are the people in our network of patients and families. And after that person came back from talking with those people, they said that was the most important part
yeah.
of this article. So it really does speak to how those voices matter. So sorry to cut you off as you were coming to that next question.
That's okay. I mean, I think that this is like great that we're like springboarding, but I always try to bring my speech language pathologists and even nursing respiratory. And lately I've been referring my family members and patients to the website so that they could go and check out the different portals. So there's a healthcare provider portal, there's a family patient and family care provider portal. So, just give us a little maybe information about the website or either your favorite part about the website or something that you're like, you have to go there and check this out. And then I'll tell you my favorite part after.
Well, my favorite part about it is actually all the people that contribute to it. So it's a living, entity in the sense that it's always changing. And so on the one hand, it has this longitudinal component where you can kind of see our history from inception. And we're still a young organization, but a decade was a really important milestone, and many organizations didn't make it through the pandemic. Ours did, and we were stronger from it. So I love the landing page that speaks to our vision and to our mission. I love all the pictures of our patients, families, and from our meetings. We've had some phenomenal keynotes. I hope I'm not gonna steal your favorite thing in it. I love the page, even though it's probably not our most interesting page, but the ones that talk about all of the publications that we've had. And literally, there are probably hundreds of papers out there that wouldn't have existed without our organization. So all the collaboration behind that scholarship, the knowledge that that has translated into data-driven practice that is improving care, and then the videos as well. So there are all these different little pieces, and there's also a patient in what used to be called the patient family newsletter, but now is our kind of quarterly newsletter that really gives a window into all the great things happening in the organization. So all those are pit stops that you can make while visiting it. But what's your favorite site, Rachel?
I love the webinar portal because I actually stumbled upon these webinars that were, through YouTube link before I even knew what the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative was. I was at home, this was pre-COVID, and I was searching, to take some CEUs, continuing education points, and just kind of learn more because COVID was on the horizon. Like we didn't know how big it was going to be and how vast, but we were starting to see the increase. Things were shutting down. More trach patients were being populated throughout our facility. And at my facility, there really wasn't any speech language pathologist that was trained, competent, or equipped enough to handle this caseload coming in. So I started searching and found all these wonderful, wonderful webinar. I mean, like hidden gems that I still send to my friends to these days. And now with all these new webinars coming on and promoting them on the Instagram, I think that these webinars are fantastic. And the fact that you guys provide them for free, you can watch them back, play them back. I tell my students, go watch this, play it 3 times, watch it again, whatever you need to learn, bring back questions. So I love everything on the website, but the webinars have been by far my favorite because you guys bring beautiful, amazing, intelligent speakers with great content. I mean, the last one about the stomas and tracheostomy skin breakdown, things that I never thought about with, certain packing and zero form and things we needed to be cognizant about in our trach patients. It's so easy to go throughout your day, do your passing mirror valves or do your dysphagia evaluations, but the things like skin breakdown or when they go home, and that's what patients are complaining about or have issues with that. I didn't really understand how to take care of my dressing. So fantastic webinars, definitely. That's my favorite part.
Well, that means the world to me, Rachel. And I have to give a shout out to two people. One is Vincia Pandian, our vice president, who you've already interviewed, who really set the bar for the rest of us. She did such a phenomenal job organizing these. And during the pandemic, we just developed such a following, sometimes over 1,000 people at these webinars. And Amy Freeman Sanderson, who has just been phenomenal, and she has taken to the next level. And all of our speakers who basically, they don't get paid anything to do this. It's just purely out of a desire to improve the care of patients and inform their fellow colleagues. And I also want to give a shout out to one of our partnering organizations, which is the National Tracheostomy Safety Project, whose website has also attracted a tremendous amount of attention for its informational resources. And I would regard these as complementary resources. So between us, we've probably attracted millions of different viewers, and it's just so wonderful to hear, Rachel, that you're finding them practical and useful and things that you can share with your students. One thing I'll also share is that if I think back to when I started with this organization and this journey, I was an early career person, a few years in, and looking up to the senior people for wisdom. And now I thought that once I was a little bit further along, I would have people looking to me. But instead, it's actually the other way around. I'm looking to the younger people for new ideas and the innovation. So it's really, truly a learning organization where we're all learning together. And that community has been one of the most enjoyable and meaningful parts of being part of this collaborative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could just say that from the few months or about a year that I've been involved, but that's wonderful. What would you say are some like long-term goals for the Global Tracheostomy Collaborative aside from our vision and our mission? What is something that we want to either achieve or really to promote and attract interdisciplinary personnel to our website and to join the organization? What's like a very big goal for this organization?
Well, we always have lots of goals. And so I couldn't say that it's just one, but if I were to try to embody it in one single item, it really is captured in that vision. So I'd like to read that for your listeners, if that's okay. So
Yeah.
our mission involves partnering with hospitals, healthcare professionals, and patients and families around the world to improve safety of the care, quality of life for everyone with a tracheostomy. And then our vision, and this really gets to the future, the state that we aspire to reach is safe, effective tracheostomy care on a global scale, achieved through data-driven innovations of interprofessional teams of physicians, nurses, respiratory therapists, speech therapists, patients, and families. And so if you drill down to what that means in practical terms, it means specific innovations through our different work groups and committees. So we have a data-driven practice committee that is looking at ways that we can leverage the data that we're collecting prospectively on patients. And so this constitutes some large guided implementation projects, like the one from the United Kingdom, where we engaged 20 different hospitals and showed dramatic improvements in multiple different areas. So we're always trying new experiments. It also is practical things like trying to figure out how to get data to flow from electronic health records directly into the database, or at least some selected fields. It means things like expanding our scope through bigger meetings, strategic alliances with other organizations. So some of those include the NTSP that I spoke to, but there are other ones such as the Fall Voice Group, which is housed within otolaryngology, but has a very strong speech language pathology presence and leadership. You're probably well aware of them, Rachel. I'm very excited about increasing equitable care. So even the best hospital has opportunities to improve the care that they're giving. But if you look at what's happening around the world, we've made a big dent in developed countries, but in more resource restricted settings, there's just such a long distance to go that if we can have a little bit of a footprint, even a small one, that would be incredibly helpful. So we started reaching out to some colleagues in places like Ghana and Africa or South America. And these connections allow us to broaden our reach and have more impact. There are also areas where there are new innovations happening in terms of developing potential approaches or devices. And so these are all very experimental, but part of it is we're in the process of submitting grants as well. So that provides some of the funding for innovation. And we'll go anywhere that there are resources to support us, but currently we're looking at the National Institutes of Health or the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. We've benefited from military support, as well as sometimes industry is interested in partnerships. Although we've mainly relied on them for the unrestricted educational approaches. So yeah, lots of different avenues that we're looking at, and also advocacy. I think there's a lot that we can do in terms of improving the support for insurers to cover necessary care for patients, and just figuring out ways that we can all work together better as teams around the world.
That's a great goal, vision, and mission. Absolutely. Let's speak a little bit about, because I know I have some colleagues, and I was also very inquisitive about this from the get-go, how we can get our hospital involved and be a part of the database, because I think it speaks volumes coming from a very small hospital, going to a larger hospital right now. It was one thing to just do my own data collection and run numbers and run statistics on our trach patients and the care they were receiving in a 500-bed hospital. But once you start getting to these larger facilities, 1,500 beds, 1,700 beds, or these large community hospitals where it's difficult to track your own data, I think that this database is so efficient and important for us to see our own data, and then, like mentioned, comparable to other facilities to see where we can improve. So how could how could you speak to that and help advocate for someone who's trying to get their hospital involved in the GTC database?
Yeah, so that is such a wonderful question, Rachel, because we get so excited about bringing people to our webinars, about them coming to our meetings, about them contributing to our new journal, that we don't always emphasize the value that people get by becoming a formal hospital member that is able to contribute data to our database. One of the things that we said over a decade ago is that your metrics define your mission. And what that means is that, you often get what you count and the things that you look at and evaluate. So if you're not capturing that data, it's very hard to affect change. So individuals that would like to have their hospital become part of the collaborative from the standpoint of not just being part of the learning community, but prospectively contributing data, they should go to our website, click on the tab for information. So I think it's info@globaltrach.org, but whatever that link directs them to, we'll put you in touch with our executive director, Marisa Snell, and then she can also direct any questions to myself or other members of our executive officers, because we want people to join. And it's not just that you can track your own data and progress, but we have the ability to compare your experience to that of other hospitals. And so the process of benchmarking is very nuanced because every hospital is different in terms of the age range, in terms of the complexity of patients, and the overall care and patient mix. But the ability to enter your own data, to track what's happening with it, to get reports. We do fairly sophisticated data analytics, and then compare that to other hospitals, and also to engage in some of the scholarly endeavors. really allows you to up your game and put you in an upper echelon of the care of patients with tracheostomy. And we're very inclusive. We really just want as many people to be part of our efforts as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you said it, metrics drives that change. So it's really hard to implement new protocols or justify your need for that without that concrete data. And I've been in and out many times where they say, oh, well, it's always been done this way. It doesn't need to change. But when you really lay out the numbers or the hard facts to, describe readmission rates or adverse events or why patients are leaving and they're not decannulated, it kind of shows the facility you're working in or the institution you're working in, we can do better. And like you said, even the best facilities have room for improvement, or the best institutions. So that's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
and from the standpoint of sustainability,
Mhm.
people often have the initiative to start a change, but if they don't see the results, if they don't see the cold hard numbers, showing that benefit that you're cutting down on length of stay, you're reducing costs, you're saving lives, you're reducing adverse events, then it's going to be difficult to continue it. Also, the collaborative provides a structure that helps people to scaffold their efforts around different protocols. And so by becoming part of the collaborative, we also have resources that can help you in building out your program. And also you can share your experiences to help others improve the way that they provide care.
Absolutely. And this kind of ties into my next question about the ITS, the International Tracheostomy Symposium, that, with the posters and all the presentations, just from experience of being at it last year, it was amazing to see different kinds of, interdisciplinary tracheostomy teams being developed in a vast different amount of facilities, whether it's inpatient rehab, skilled nursing, long-term, acute hospitals. So it's like not one size fits all, but everyone is bringing to the table how they implemented it and how it worked in their facilities. So, would you like to speak a little bit about this upcoming conference? I know it's going to be virtual, but I think it's an amazing opportunity for people to bring forth what they're doing at their facility, or even just come and join and listen and get some ideas and take it back to your own facility.
Yeah, so November 1st and 2nd are when we're having the event. We're really excited to have people from all around the world contribute. At our last International Tracheostomy Symposium, we thought that in the wake of the pandemic, we might see a little bit more limited representation, but we had people from all over. So we had the usual suspects from both coasts of the US as well as Midwesterners like myself. But we also had people who are much more far flung. So we had representation from the United Kingdom, from Israel, from India, from Africa. I think we had some people from South America. It was really a pretty impressive showing. We're really excited to have people present their science, people discuss their experiences. We anticipate having some keynotes as well that we're still in the process of pinning down. But it's really sizing up to be a terrific show. And this is a place where people can share ideas. It also helps people advance their careers as well. People at different career stages, often it's important for them to have that experience of presenting their work or of critiquing the work of others, getting that feedback on how they can improve care and the mutual learning. And these things are a lot of fun too, because there's just a lot of dialogue that arises from it. I have to say that me personally, I love the in-person experience, but there's also much to be said for the convenience and ease of just being able from the comfort of your own home to engage in what's going on at the session.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the live version and I can't wait for the next time that it's in person, but I think for the virtual aspect, it's going to be great. We'll get a big forthcoming, and I think we still have a few days left for the deadline. I believe it's May 15th to still submit. So that's exciting. So everyone watching can definitely get their abstracts in or just come and join and watch. But I think that's all of my questions. Do you have anything you want to add or anything in specific that you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Well, most importantly, Rachel, I just want to thank you for your initiative, taking the opportunity to invite me to do this. You have your own little Trach Talks gig on the side, which is very impressive. And when we look at what's going to keep this organization not just alive, but allowing it to thrive, It's that there are people who, like you, who bring positive energy, new ideas, and that make it fun, that really are great at working together and bringing people together. And so culturally, I think there's been a lot of growth within the organization and actually globally in how we look at tracheostomy care so that there's more patient and family involvement and more of an even playing field between all the healthcare professionals from all the fields that I've talked about. I spoke a little bit about how we're putting families more in the driver's seat through shared decision making and making them integral members of the care team. One thing that is a motto of the patient and family movement is nothing about us without us. And so trying to have individuals who are who have the most at stake in the game is really important. In terms of our literature, that continues to grow, and we're really excited to see the Tracheostomy Journal take off. Its first issue was actually much better than I thought we'd be able to achieve. Usually with new journals, they basically have some commentaries, maybe a little bit of retrospective research, but we had a randomized clinical trial in it that showed some very significant outcomes. We had a systematic review, and we had other really solid science. So what this speaks to is that though we have specialty journals that are in one field or another, we now have a home for tracheostomy care where we can put the best science. So by bringing together all these different pieces of the key drivers, the data-driven practice, the protocol-driven approaches to broad-based education, the patient and family engagement, and all the other practical aspects of how we improve tracheostomy care, I think we're really in a position to move things forward. So thank you for everything that you've done, Rachel, to help us in that goal.
Not a problem. This was awesome. This will be able to be viewed both on Instagram and on Facebook, and I believe we'll also push it to the LinkedIn and the Twitter, well, at least the links. So everyone will be able to review this, watch this, and we'll continue to interview other members so that they can provide their input on what makes the GTC special to them, what their contributions are, and just get everyone a little bit more excited and involved. And hopefully we will just take over the world when it comes to tracheostomy management and make it a better place and make our tracheostomy patients amazing and optimal care and the best. So thank you. Thank you for your expertise. We could talk for hours, but I know this is like a 30-minute interview. So this was awesome.
Rachel, it has been an absolute delight, and I know that you're going to have a wonderful experience and deliver wonderful things for all of our listeners with those subsequent interviews because we have so many spectacular people leading our different committees, involved in our executive board, and in all levels of the organization, from the people on, working boots on the ground in our hospital floors and in the community, to every level of leadership. So thanks for all you do, and thanks to all of our listeners.
Thank you. Hope you guys watch again and tune in soon. Thank you.